Listen.
Oh, it's not good.
Put it on. Put it on. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon.
I don't like
Good
this.
evening. Welcome to Sacramento, California. I feel like I'm a native of California already. Yeah, California been treating us so good, But anyways, for those of you listening to us, following us via Facebook, YouTube, from Liberia and other sites, we want to say welcome. Please share the live as you come on, please and please. We are, as you can see the title on your screen, we are in the town hall meeting here with Mr. Alexander Cummings. And we are, we're having some good time. Last night, I know some of you saw the video on Facebook. If you mess up, go watch the replay, we were dancing. We were dancing, we're chilling, and let's be honest. During the day, I called out Mr. Cummings that Mrs. Cummings can dance more than him. But last night, the movie I saw him lately, I said, I gotta do it twice. But anyway, I'd like to welcome my co-host really quick so that she can introduce herself before we get started here, please. Ms. OJ, please.
Give it up for OJ, guys. Thank you so much. How's everybody doing tonight? I know it's been raining, it's gloomy, but I can guarantee you that tonight it's going to be a lot of sunshine because we actually have the honor of witnessing, hopefully, a presidential of Liberia. But my name is Ophelia Joy. My nickname is OJ. If it's easier, it's not OJ Simpson, it's not orange juice. It's just Ophelia Joy. But I am so honored to be a part of this event. I am so eager to learn more about what Mr. Cummings can bring to Liberia for a better Liberia. And I can't wait to hear each one of your questions and see how Mr. Cummings answers those questions. Thank you.
Thank you, OJ. Today over, we're doing you service because we got remix of everything. The library English that means church. So anything you don't understand, just signal me, I will interpret. But let's get started. Let's get this started. OJ says she versatile, she can switch, so definitely so. But let's get started. We'd like to also thank our sister radio station who's also reading this program today with us. Mr. Samson Toll from the LPR TV. Why don't you give up for Mr. Samson Toll, please? Thanks to Mr. Samson Toll and the entire crew. We've been working together throughout this weekend. I have to say, we've been knowing each other since 19. But to get officially started with this program, like I said, if you're on Facebook and you're not sharing the show, we'll block you. No, I'm just kidding. But let's get started with the program. We'd like to invite the ANC Western Region chairperson in person of Mrs. Washington. Why don't you yell for Mrs. Washington?
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. How are you doing today? You guys have to do way better than that. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. We're excited to have Mr. Cummings here with us. We've been wanting him to come to California because everybody asking about Mr. Cummings, Mr. Cummings. So he's here today to interact with us. So I'm so happy you guys joined us. We're going to have Miss Pastor Tim pray for us, and we'll go right into the town hall. I know we want to make sure we maximize our time. So Pastor Tim, please pray for us. Before anything successful happens, we have to make sure God is first. Thank you.
Amen. Just want to welcome everyone to our church here, Friends in Covenant, and welcome you to the capital city of California. And as we pray, this great city that we're in, let's pray that one of these days, Liberia will have a system as they do in this capital city. Amen. Hallelujah. Every head bow? Yeah, you can stand, please, if you don't mind.
Let us pray. Dear Father, we thank you for bringing all of us together today. Folks from different tribal backgrounds, might be different political leanings. But Father, most of all, we come here because of Liberia. And as we go through this time of question and answer, and as we listen to Mr. Cummings, Father, we ask you to make Liberia a better country. Father, raise up a leader that can take Liberia to exactly where it needs to be. So we thank you for this time. Thank you for everyone that drove long distance, that flew from other states and came here. Father, that those coming would not be in vain. Bless all of us and bless this time. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you so much, Pastor. Interesting moments, interesting time. I know the way I see people visit, I know that I can see so question. Wait a minute. I look for the people that are serious. They are so serious. I didn't see so much of seriousness in one place that my people are already serious. Hey, tell me that you want to attack Mr. Cummings now. Yeah. Hey. But to be quite honest, all of you looking good too. Why don't you put your hands together for yourselves? Because in the ring, you made your way to come to here. So thank you so much for being here. Just before we start with your questions, and should you have, maybe you said you need pen or you need paper or anything to write on or whatever it is, contact me or contact Woji or just come to the table or ask Mr. Toll. We have pen, papers, and everything here for you to ask your question. So you can say, ASC people said you, or you forgot about your question, you read it down. But just before we get to the questions and answering, we will have Mr. Cummings to do for us rather quick, a quick overview, or you can call it presentation of his vision, his goal, and what he intends to do. And we'll get right after that into the Q&A. While we are doing that, we will be reaching back there out to you to make sure we get you situated for your questions. Thank you.
And just a friendly reminder, if you have a phone, please put it on silent, especially when we're asking questions and Mr. Cummings is answering those questions. Just out of respect, if you can quiet your phone, that would be great. Thank you. Mr. Cummings, let's welcome Mr. Cummings, you guys. Put your hands together. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Sacramento. We got to increase the energy level in here. Good afternoon, Sacramento. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, California. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Western region. Good afternoon. Wonderful. Good to be with everybody this afternoon. Before I talk about the platform, and I want to start by telling people a little bit about myself and my family. I was just asked about my wife and kids, so I realized maybe I should start there on the personal side, because some people think I just dropped from heaven somehow. So I always like to start my parents, my father, the Cummings family from Maryland. Actually, some of them from Nima, from the Tapeta area as well, but Maryland is sort of the home county, if you will. My father was what you call an outside child, right? His father had he and his sisters, they're both deceased now, and he has siblings much older than him as a result of that relationship. But he moved to Monrovia when he was a teenager to live with an older sister as a ward. He went to university, and then started his career as a cadet, a messenger type initial education, and worked his way up. My mother only finished high school, went to CAV. Anybody went to CAV here? Yes, there you go, one thing. And then she became a midwife and a small businesswoman. But I grew up in Point Four, if you're familiar with Monrovia. And then we moved to Fiamma. I went to demonstration school. Then I went to CWA, the best high school in Liberia.
So which high school has produced president, vice president, chief justice, Xavier? And which house is going to produce the next president?
Facts all the way. Facts all the way. And then I went to Connington. I finished undergraduate school in the US. I went back, worked at LBDI in Liberia as an analyst, came back for graduate school, wanted to get some work experience. And like many of you, the war started and it made it challenging to go back. I'm married to, I had three sisters. My youngest sister passed away in 2017, actually. So I've got two sisters. My mother is still alive. She's 94 years old. Yes. Thank you. I'm married to Teresa. We've been married for 40 years. We have two young adult children. I have a daughter, Ayo, and son, Boykai. And we have four biological grandchildren and one adopted, so we have five grandchildren. So that's a little bit about the personal side. The other thing is my work experience has been in Liberia with LBDI, and I've lived and worked in Nigeria, in Kenya, South Africa, the UK, and the US. I first started work with the Pillsbury Company in Minneapolis. Then I joined Coca-Cola, and that's where I moved around the world working for Coke. My last job, last 8 years, I was the top 2-3 executive globally for the Coca-Cola Company, responsibility for most of the functions. So strategy, globally, human resources, all of the IT functions, all of the technical functions, R&D, procurement, manufacturing, quality, all of that reported to me, the foundation, the legal function. And we did that very successfully for 8 years and then retired and entered politics in Liberia. And as was said in the interview I did in Nigeria, we entered politics 2016, right? It took almost exactly a year and a half before the last elections. And given that length of time, we did okay. We didn't win, so that's not a good thing, right? But as I mentioned, we came in 5th overall out of 20 candidates. We came in 3rd in Monserrate, ahead of people who have been there forever. We came in ahead of Liberty Party, Councillor Flosky in Monserrate, in Nimba, we came in ahead of them. So we didn't do too badly. And then, of course, President Weah is not performing well. I think that's just a fact. And therefore, we have the opportunity to replace him, and replace him we must. I think it's in the interest of our country, of our people, that we make President Weah one-term president. But in terms of our platform, our objectives for Liberia, I often say that the what we need to do is pretty obvious. There's the what and the how, right? And the what, if you talk to anybody who aspires to lead our country, we will all talk about the same what needs to be fixed, right? We may use different words to describe it. The order might be different, but the what we need to fix is very clear. For us, the priority though first is what we call infrastructure. So infrastructure means electricity, means roads, means running water, and it means internet connectivity, cell phone connectivity, internet. We need to use technology, right? Yes. Those 4 things we call infrastructure. The United States government, USAID, did a study, I think around 2006-07, somewhere in that range. I don't know the years exactly, to determine what they call the binding constraints that limited economic growth in our country. And there are many things that limit growth, but the 2 key ones were electricity and roads. right? And we gotta fix those two things in addition to, as I mentioned, running water and technology, internet. We gotta connect the countries so we come to the 21st century. So infrastructure, key priority. Next priority is, investing in um, agriculture. We don't feed ourselves. We import everything we consume. We have to change that. So we are going to invest in agriculture, and as we go to the town hall, we get specific if you're interested in exactly what that means and what we'll do, because we're very clear on that. We're going to invest in education, and again, we will make choices within the choices. We'll prioritize. We're not trying to do everything within education or in healthcare, okay? Because the next priority is healthcare. You can have a good job, you can have an education, if you're not healthy, it doesn't matter, right? So we gotta invest in healthcare, but even within healthcare, we gotta make choices and priorities. We're gonna grow the economy. All of these things that we do well will grow the economy because we have to create jobs for our people. And one of the most pressing priorities today in Liberia is the level of joblessness. And when you see our young children on the street selling in the sun, in the rain, because that's how they support themselves and their families, it breaks your heart. And we have to create jobs so that our kids, rather than be on the street selling, they can be in school learning to prepare themselves for a better future. We again will make sure we focus on those things. Then I often talk about we gotta engage hearts and minds of Liberians so that we can own our country, we can own the problems, we can own the solutions. Today we have a real dependency mentality, depending on others, our international partners, on the Americans. Well, yes, we need help, but we gotta own it first. We gotta recognize that this country is ours, only we can solve it. We also, as a people, we tend to see the glass as half empty, right? We tend to be very hard on each other, very pessimistic. We gotta change the mindset. If you look at Nigerian movies, I live in Nigeria. In fact, my maternal grandfather was Nigerian and Yoruba. Nigerians will show the best of themselves, which is a good thing. We tend to amplify what's bad about us. We gotta change that mindset. We don't work well together. We either fight each other. Even the ANC now. These are things we gotta change, though. We gotta find every reason to divide ourselves. Right? Whether we like it or not, we all from that country. That's the only country they can't deport us from. Right? I remind Liberians, I said it last night, I keep saying it, you don't choose your tribe. That's not your choice. What tribe you're going to, Gola, Dio, Crown, Pele, Grebo, Congo, it's not your choice. You don't choose your gender, whether you're male or woman. It's not your choice. You don't choose the religion you're born into. And most people, the religion they're born into, they don't want to die into it. 99% of people. And it's not your choice. Right? You don't choose when you're born, whether you're young or old. Lorenzo, I didn't choose to be among the oldest in this room. I may speak for myself. Lorenzo's a young man. But the point is, those things should not give you any advantage or disadvantage over anybody else, because it's not your choice. Right? Part of why we need to unify, we need to work together as a people. And that's one of the things we have to change, because we don't choose these differences. And the only thing that should determine your success or failure in Liberia is what you do, the actions you take, the behaviors. You have to live with the rewards and consequences of your decision, not for those things you have no control over. That's the kind of Liberia we need to all strive towards developing. And again, these things are easier said than done, but we have to do those things. We have to focus on doing those things. I keep saying it, it's a broken record, but I will keep saying it. We can't keep doing the same and expect different results.
Yes.
And as a people, when you accuse the way people are stealing, which they are doing, they say, well, stealing being like for a long time. Yes, but is that a reason to keep doing it?
No.
Right? We gotta change. We gotta stop the roguish behavior. Right? You take the same Liberian people, you take us all of Liberia, you bring us to the United States, we will follow the rules. Right? We don't go to work on time. We don't drink and drive. And we don't steal underage children. We don't follow the rules, right?
That's true.
So how come in our country we don't want to follow the rules? We will change that. Everybody gotta follow the rules. Everybody gotta follow the rules. This big shop business we gotta change. Right? Do you know who I am business? Forget it. I tell people if you're supporting me because you want to come play big shot, you want a chance to chop, I am not your guy. If you want to come and work and help sacrifice so we can change the country, come and join us. Because Nigeria will only change because we work and sacrifice, not because we wish it, talk it, pray it. We gotta pray too, by the way. And since we're in a parish hall, we're in the church, let me say the church or religion has a major role to play in the transformation of our country. Because we need physical transformation, meaning infrastructure, education, healthcare, but we also need spiritual transformation of the country. Right? We need to act and live by the precepts of the Bible and the Quran. Right? And we need to engage Liberians in thinking about this country, about each other differently. And the things we will be deliberate about using, I don't know all the answers on how we'll do it, but we will figure it out. But the things that help people think differently about themselves and influence behavior, if you think about sports, arts, culture, music, theater, religion, those things that we're deliberate about how we use it and think about it, it can influence how people think about themselves. Sports teaches teamwork, right? Religion should be teaching integrity, what's right from wrong, right? Music, arts, and culture as a young country can influence how people think about themselves, their behaviors. So we gotta be deliberate using these things in engaging Liberians to think differently about our country, so that together we can change Liberia. We have to do it together, but we have to be prepared to do the work. It's just not the talking. We're also at a stage, as I said last night, for me, this has been like a marathon. Since 2017, we've still been engaging Liberians. We've traveled the length and breadth of the country to make our case. But we're coming to the end of the marathon now, right? The marathon is what, 26.2 miles or something like that. We're in the 25th mile, that's when the sprinting starts, right? So it's 10 months ago, now we're in the sprint. Now Liberians gotta choose. It is not good enough to stand on the sidelines. And your choice doesn't have to be Alexander Cummings. I hope it is, but it can be George Weah, it can be Joe Bogai, it can be somebody else, Chairman Goldberg, but choose. Don't stay on the sideline. Politics affects everything. The money you send home to your family relatives, if the political situation were different, you will be able to send less money and less. We could channel the money you send into a diaspora fund, something we need to do actually, where you can invest in our fund, it will be properly managed and you can get a return. You can create an annuity for you. As opposed to sending that money. The point is, politics will affect our ability to do that. The ability to save some of that money, invest in a fund as opposed to keep sending it. Right? So the point is, politics affects everything, and this attitude, I'm not interested in politics, I'm not getting in politics, then, it's your choice, right? But that's a choice not to help the country. That's a choice you're confining yourself to live in the United States. You're not giving yourself the option. We should want to develop Liberia where Liberians have the option. You should still, if you want to come here or live here, that should be your choice. But it shouldn't be because you have to. We need to develop the country so you have the option. Any Liberian can have the option, right? That's the kind of country. But if you just stand on the sidelines, and I'm tired of people that giving me advice, by the way. Advice is good. I want people to come help me implement the advice. I'm also tired of people that criticizing. Yeah, criticism is good, but it doesn't help me much. It's good to know, right? How people think, and that's okay. But let's criticize, let's offer suggestions, solutions, and then let's help implement it.
Exactly.
Right? So that, because again, if we just stand on the sidelines and just, throw jabs, the country will not change. And if you're just doing that, for me, you use the right to criticize me. If not willing to come, I can't help. We all gotta get engaged in different ways. And I don't mean get engaged in government necessarily, but make a choice, and in whatever way, whatever your profession, come help to do something different to move the country forward. Whatever that means, whatever that looks like to you. But the idea you just criticize, and we're good at our work, right? That is not good enough. That will not change the country. You have to be willing to put some skin in the game. You have to be willing to make some sacrifice. People talk about the Singapore story, the Rwanda story. There were people who, in Singapore, there were 10 men. There were Lee Kuan Yew decided, you know what, they were in Malaysia. The Malaysians didn't like them because they were Chinese and Malays, if you know the history of that part of the world. And so they agreed for them. And they decided they were not only going to break away, but they were going to transform the country. Right? And they were, because they could have also stayed in Malaysia or whatever, right? They said, no, we're going to go and do this. We're going to change the country. Same with Paul Kagame and Rwanda. They decided to do the work, to make the sacrifice, to make the tough calls, make the tough decisions, to punish people when they misbehave. That's what we got to do in Nigeria. God bless me, become president, so now we hit that country.
Yes.
In the sense that we will do many things differently. Because we have to, if we want Liberia to move forward. I remind Liberians that we're not choosing among perfection. Muhammad not on the ballot, Jesus Christ not on the ballot. We're choosing from among humans, in this case, flawed men. No woman running this time around. But that's the choice. That's the choice you have to make, right? And that's what we have to choose from. It's a finite choice. These are imperfect choices, right? Most of the choices in life are imperfect choices, right? And this is one. And we need, like viewers everywhere in the world, to engage. The last resident, the one before the current one, was a Ghanaian from the UN, Liberia. I think he's retired now. He said, Mr. Cummings, between Liberians here in Liberia, Liberians in the diaspora, and your natural resources, you got everything you need to develop the country.
Yes.
And he was right. It's a Ghanaian. But we gotta come together, do things differently, get different kind of leadership, different kinds of experiences, and be willing to make the sacrifice and do the work. So let me take some questions about any subject.
Thank you, Mr. Cummings. Let's lay the ground rules. As you heard, Mr. Cummings, we are going to do some switching around here of mics. OJ, just before we get the ground rules laid out for the Q&A session, ASC OJ. If you don't know OJ, just ask me, I'll show you who OJ is. ASC OJ. Okay. If you get question, go to OJ. Please don't shout from behind and say, Ramadan. If you get question, please don't put your hand up because I might not see you. Then you get there with me, I beg you. I won't go back to Arizona. So, this is what we are about to do. While Mr. Cummings gets set up for your questions, once OJ brings you up in this line, I will hand you the mic. You will stand right here and you ask Mr. Cummings your question. While you are headed to your seat, we'll give you time to answer. We have today Upa, anything Mr. Cummings, anything Mr. Cummings at home. We'll give you standing to the what I say. Yeah, we set him up. So these are the rules. Please, one at a time. Let's not form, any kind of. Let's not block the room. That's one. Two. Please, if you forgot, just like me, please put your phone on silence, on mute, or whatever it is. Please, we're begging you. If you have to take a call, just raise your hand. OJ will come to you. If you have to take a call, please step outside before you answer the phone. Don't answer the phone and say, Yola no say I in the town hall meeting. Please don't do that. When you step outside, you can answer the phone. And here's the last part. Just follow the direction of OJ, she will tell you. So, please, the first person with your question, here's the last. You have one question, please. And you have 1 minute each, please. I beg you. If you let Mr. Cummings, you let all his accomplishment, that's fine. Please get to the point. Yeah. I see my fellow looking in the hag and water here as we say that on the water. Because Mr. Cummings has to go as well. But let's make it interactive so everybody else can have the opportunity to interact with Mr. Cummings. Do we agree? Yes. Now, if we agree, then you clap for yourself. So, let's have the first person for OJ, please.
And I have a timer here. 1 minute. We'll probably give you 8 seconds for grace period. If this alarm goes off, that means your question is done.
First person.
So I saw her first. You're gonna come up.
Please come.
Say your name, where you're from, and then your question. 1 minute.
Good evening, Mr. Cummings. My name
Don't you-
is Steph
Are you on
Lomo.
the camera?
I'm coming from the Bay Area, from Oakland. My question is, when you win, what is the administration going to do about the human infrastructure?
Thank you. So our biggest asset in Liberia are Liberians, are the human infrastructure, the human asset. And so I think about segmenting it into different groups, if you will. There's the young people, and Liberia is mostly a young country. So the median age, I think, is 18 or 19, right? So very young. The median age in Africa is about the same too, by the way. Liberia is right there. And so we have to therefore invest in training and education for our young people. That for me is vocational training as well as the normal sort of academic route so that our young people have a choice. One of the reasons why Germany is as developed as it is, and the Germans are known for their technical expertise. That's why if you ride in BMWs and Mercedes and Porsches, they're all German vehicles, because the Germans have a 2-track educational system. They have what they call the technical training, technical track, and they got the normal people that want to be doctors, lawyers, engineers, etc. We need to develop that in Liberia, but the point is to educate our young people, develop that human capital. Then there's adult education. A lot of our people, adults, are functionally illiterate. So we need to, and there's the way you teach and train adults is a different way you teach and train young people. And to bring dignity back into that process. So adult education is another way we'll focus to develop our human capital. But to do all of that is our biggest priority is to invest in teachers training.
Yes.
At all levels, because they say garbage in, garbage out. If you don't have good teachers at university level, secondary level, primary level, you're not going to get good output. So we're going to invest in teachers to make sure that happens. And doing all of these things, we also got to make sure we grow the economy to create jobs for our people, right? So, great question, good first question, because unless we develop the human capital, unless we engage and change hearts and minds, I talked about earlier, how we think about ourselves. And education has to include teaching values, bringing ethics back into the school system, right? Civics back into the school system. And so, yes, we will focus on developing human capital because ultimately that's what will sustain the country. So Rwanda, for example, has no natural resources, but they are developing their country because invested in human capital. And so that's what we will do.
My question is it lawful to sue the government of Liberia if you haven't sued the government for misapplying our resources? Example, COVID-19, stimulus package, and $11 million subsidy.
This is a great question. And you know, somebody just came to see me the other day, and they were suggesting that under the Liberian Constitution, and I'm not a lawyer, so I hope I don't misspeak. I don't know if any lawyers are in here. But under the Liberian Constitution, there's supposed to be a court set up where you can and should take government officials for whatever mismanagement they do in terms of in carrying out their responsibility to lead and manage the country. So I think under our jurisprudence, I think you can do that. Is the answer. I say I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think you can. But my real answer to that question is as follows. When we assume office in January 2024, one of the things we will do is we will ask for an audit of everything we're inheriting. So we will make sure the integrity institutions in Liberia, the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission, the Public Procurement Commission, the General Auditing Commission, will make sure these agencies have the right leadership, the right people leading them with the right skills and experiences. We'll make sure they have the right resources to do the job, and we'll let them follow the evidence. We'll let them follow the facts, whatever it leads, to hold people accountable for stealing Liberian money. So we want to audit the past, but we want them also audit our administration as we go along, so that we can avoid and stop and punish what's happening today around the stealing and corruption in our country. The level of impunity with which that is happening is unacceptable. And so, again, we will authorize an audit of everything we're inheriting, not because we want to wish on anybody. We're not going to say go audit a person. We'll say follow the evidence. Wherever and whoever the evidence leads to, they will bear the consequences of that. And that's how we begin to stop this impunity. I also believe that we have to revisit this war economic crime court. We need to do that. So we can put this, we can close that chapter, we can put the hurt behind us. There can be consequences, right? But again, it's gotta be based on evidence, it's gotta be based on the facts. For both war, economic crimes, and that again will be how we'll address this issue. And look, once you set the example, once people know you're serious, once people know the rules applies to everybody, most people will behave. Most people will follow the rules. You got bad people everywhere, you got bad people in this country. But you have 99% of people who follow the rules. They will behave. If they know the rules are being enforced, they know there are consequences for their behavior, and they know the rules applies to everybody without exception. We'll begin to solve that issue.
The next question. Good evening, Mr. Cummings. I'm Benedict Brown.
Benedict is a good name.
Just for a second, I'd like to play the devil's advocate and, maybe get tough a little bit with you. Your reputation has been impugned, that we saw a couple months ago by some political actors. And you were taken to court and the courts have exonerated you. What do you do next? What would be the consequence? You've always said when we do things the same way, we get the same results. We don't get different results. Now, let me hold you by that statement. What would you do differently to those actors who took you to court just to slander your reputation? And then, if I may, when do we expect to see your vice president, your running mate?
Right. Okay.
Where are you from?
Thank you, Ben.
Where are you from? Oh, I'm from the Bay Area.
All right. So, so you're right in the sense that, unfortunately, people who were collaborating with decided they were going to lie on me. And as you suggest, you try to impugn my reputation. But we knew all along that it was not going to work because it was baseless, it was unfounded, it was frankly BS, right? So the court system, for 5 months, by the way, this accusation, for those who don't realize, was quote unquote a misdemeanor, right? It was tried at a magisterial level. Normally, the guidelines for magisterial court should be 30 days. The magistrate should dispose of. This stuff went on for like 5.5 months. Complete joke, right? But anyway, that's an aside. Look, to answer your question is, there have been some consequences already for, and frankly, some consequences you leave to God.
That's right. Yeah.
Not every consequence you gotta necessarily act on.
Let it go.
And but also sometimes it's good to strike when things have gone cold, when people least expect it. So, but also there are times when you let bygones be bygones, and you move on. And I will not say which of those situations were, whether we let bygone be bygone, whether we let God do it, whether we do ourselves. We leave it open for now. But consequences one way or the other will happen. And let's just leave it at that. May not be the answer you wanted to hear, Benedict, but I think we'll leave it at that for now. On my vice presidents, look, I'm elected sometime in the first quarter next year. Next year is next month. Sometime in the first quarter will be likely when we'll make that announcement. And I said likely, we haven't decided definitively when, but I think likely it will make sense towards the end of the first quarter. Is when we might do a little sooner, might do a little later, but somewhere in there, we will name our VSB. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Cummings. Just as a quick reminder, as you come up to ask your questions or question, please ensure that you state your name and where you come from, please. Don't be afraid, we're not looking for you.
Thank you, Mr. Cummings. My name is Elfin Stonebridge, commonly known as a bombshell. My question has to do with Louis Brown. Louis Brown has been up in the media talking about the December 17 rally in Monrovia. But a lot of the Liberians, including ANC members, are saying he's not the right messenger for the message. Based on his past record of suppressing the Liberian people at the time he was security advisor to Charles Taylor. He closed radio stations down, he denied people of rallying, he gives Charles Taylor the worst security advice in the country. Today, he's the face of Team Cummings. Today, he's speaking about rallying, something that he denied Liberians the right to exercise. What do you have to say about this?
So, I would say the following, again, in no particular order, is that, first is that Liberia and Liberians are the face of the rally. One of the reasons why I'm not on the ground right now, but I leave here tonight, I fly to Atlanta, I leave Atlanta tomorrow afternoon. I fly to New York and back to Liberia. And I'm here because we made a commitment to be here on the West Coast for this event that had been scheduled for a long time. If there was a way I could have gotten out of this, I would have, but I'd like to keep commitments I make. But I will be on the ground and will be one of the faces of that rally, like the primary one. But also, Liberians who are suffering they're going to be the face of that rally. And there will be, starting tomorrow, Monday in Liberia, there will be many other voices and faces you will see. But I also, perhaps to answer your broader question, is that we are not running for president to be president of just one group of Liberians. We want for president to be president of all Liberians. Some of the allegations against people are just allegations. There may or may not be truth to it, but they're allegations at this point in time. And sometimes we make declarative statements. We say things as if it's completely true, or we got all the facts. And that may or may not be the case, right? Louis has been helpful, is helpful, smart guy, but he is not the only face of this rally. Again, Liberians are the face of the rally. I will be one of the primary faces of that rally. And the fact is, thank you. The fact is that Liberians are suffering no matter who speaks on their behalf. The facts are the facts. So we have to look at the ultimate reason and rationale for the rally. And the rally is to say to President Weah, in case you don't realize, you don't know, your people are suffering. You're mismanaging the country. You're not doing the country well. And that's the message we'll be sending on December 17th. And it will be resounding. It will be peaceful because we will make sure it is. We are saying to the government, it's your responsibility to make sure that rally is peaceful. The Constitution guarantees the peaceful assembly. It's our right to do that. And we expect them to provide protection to us. And that rally will be successful. And again, the face of that rally is all of us. It's no one person. But I will be back on the ground and we'll begin to take the leadership in calling Liberians to come and send a message to the government.
Thank you. Well, it's very, very good. Because now we're going to So I look at it now, reaching out to the table, want to bounce smoke. So man is asking question. Therefore, we have one woman now. Thank you.
Uh-oh.
My name is Stacey Brown. I live in Maryland and I flew here just to be here for this event. And this is not one of the first and the last event. I've been to North Carolina, I was here for, in Baltimore, I was there. I have a call in when I came. My question to you is, you often tell us.
Just tell them so people can hear you on the radio.
Things to see when expect different results. I have analyzed over the years, the reason the student, I'm not going to call it corruption, is because of unqualified people occupying position that they have no business to occupy. What would be the yardstick that you will use for presidential appointee when you shall become president 2024?
Thank you. The first thing I would say is that we have enough qualified Liberians, first between Liberians in Liberia today, and then when you add Liberians in the diaspora, we got enough qualified people to occupy the roles we need to fill in the country, in the government. And the reason why I start with that premise is because there is no excuse for appointing unqualified people, because they, as I mentioned, what the last UN representative said, between Liberians in Liberia, Liberians in the diaspora, and our resources, we have what we need to develop our country. So I said that as a premise, we got the talent, so there's no excuse for incompetent people. And so we will appoint people to positions with the requisite educational background and work experience, both of those combinations. We will verify people's academic background and work experience. We'll not just take you at your word. Somebody was saying yesterday, trust but verify. Yeah, Ronald Reagan, right? So we'll verify that people have the proper credential, they actually got the earned degrees, not the play thing, and that they got a work experience they say they have before we appoint them to positions. We will appoint qualified people to lead the various agencies. Now, it's also a relative statement too, right? If you know that sometimes your judgment of who's qualified and mine may be different, but we'll not debate whether the person really got a degree or not. That's an absolute. They gotta have the engineering degree or the medical degree or the agriculture degree or the legal degree. That we won't argue because they will have it. And we'll not argue that they got some relevant experience in the area. I mean, those are things we can measure, right? Yeah. Beyond that is a judgment call in terms of, was this person more qualified than the other, etc. But there's some basic things we're not arguing about because we'll verify that the person has those things. Now, by the way, you can have the degree, you can have the experience, and you can still fail in a role, right? But it's more likely you will fail if you don't have those one or both of those things. The odds that you will fail is even higher. So we're not arguing the basics, but then there's a relative and it's a judgment call. And I think we'll be more right than wrong, but we'll make some mistakes. I mean, I can tell you that for free. No leader gets it 100% right. You gotta get about 80 to 90% right. If you get it less than that, you will not be leader very long. But you will not hit 100%. Nobody does. Right? But you gotta get it right about 80 to 90% of the time. You gotta make the right decisions on people, on situations. If you do it much less than that, you won't be leader very long. People will follow somebody else.
Next person, please.
Thank you. I'm Mr. Emmanuel Paulos. I'm just here by coincidence. Was actually visiting my family who actually are having this, sponsoring this Cummings Global event. So we are here visiting family, and then this event is being held, so we just came to attend. So we didn't really come here purposely for it, but we used the opportunity to be here to attend. My question is, according to you, which is one of your favorite quotes, doing the same thing over and over and trying to expect a different result. We usually say, well, stability, right? Sanity or stability. How do you reconcile surrounding yourself with some people of tainted record that have been a very serious concern of some of us who look at you as the future? We have the past, we have the present, we have the future. You are supposed to be a reformer, but now you surround yourself with some people who have tainted record. How do you reconcile that in the new Liberia we are trying to make?
So the new Liberia we're trying to create and develop, we have every Liberian included and represented. And as I mentioned earlier, some of the quote-unquote taint or accusations are merely that. They're merely accusations and allegations. And I would say people tend to focus on the one or two or so individuals who, quote-unquote, have been accused or alleged to have committed whatever they've committed, and not necessarily look at everybody else that is on the team. I also remind Liberians that we are selecting from a finite pool of people. The country is what the country is. We are who we are. The actors are who the actors are. And we are selecting from that pool. And to try to look for perfection or idealism is not practical. Yes, we have many quote-unquote untainted people, starting with myself and others. But we will lead Liberia, will transform Liberia with what I call the big tent theory, where we'll have many people of all different persuasions in that tent. Many of the people who are being accused or alleged, they were operating under one set of rules. Look, I've run major groups. When you take over underperforming enterprise, you don't get rid of everybody. You bring a few new people in, you set different expectations, you set different rules, you set different performance criteria, and you begin to transform that unit. In this case, transform the country. It will be a combination of all of those things. So we'll put in different systems, different processes, different expectations, different rewards and consequences. And I promise you, many of the same people who are being accused today will perform well, differently, but in a new system, in a new process. The way you get predictability, predictable results, predictable outcomes is not based on individuals. It's based on the processes you put in place, on the systems you put in place, on the monitoring you put in place. And if you do those things well, you will get predictable outcomes. No matter who comes in, if the system is working, the processes are working, you'll get predictable outcomes. And that's what we'll do differently. We'll not rely on one person. When that person did a job, everything chakla. We want to put system, and I promise you, many of the people who have been accused, and again, there may be truth to some of the accusations, but sometimes there isn't. Because people say so, and because enough people say so, that people assume that maybe so, maybe not, right? But it's about the processes, the systems, and it's about looking at the team holistically. Not saying on one or two people, but look at the entire entire team. And again, the country is what the country is. The pool of talent is what the pool of talent is. And we have to pick from the pool of talent we have.
Good afternoon, Mr. Cummings. My name is Miata Stella Herring. I am from New Jersey, coming from Monrovia to New Jersey, and here in California. I call myself the Cummings groupie. What Cummings is, I am, because Cummings is Liberia, and this fight is about Liberia. Mr. Cummings, this question is for, or question being asked from diaspora about your position on the ground. Many people are skeptical. Somewhere they still doubtful, even though they believe in Cummings and they want this change in Liberia. And we all know what we don't want. But yet, there is that bit of skepticism about people don't know Cummings on the ground. I go on the ground. I try to convince them about what I see because I grew up behind you while in Liberia. I speak to the people so I know what's on the ground. But yeah, they take my word for it, but they still don't believe it. So since I'm here and you here and you the horse, please tell us what's going on the ground so that we in the diaspora and even some people on the ground who's listening right now that say, oh, nobody knows Cummings on the ground. What has Cummings done for Liberia? Why are you here, Papa? Please try and answer some of the questions so you can put some of us at ease. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to my groupie Stella. So, you know, again, I would say that, look, I remind people of the facts. When people make some of these statements, there's no basis. So let me just go back to facts, right? So we enter Liberian politics in 2016, a year and a half before the election. Almost everybody else, some exceptions, almost all the major players who were running have been around the country forever. So the former Vice President, President Weah, now, Councilor Bronsky at the time, the list goes on. And despite only being, so I'm just starting with the facts, and I will talk about what has happened since. Despite only 18 months, the people never heard of me, right? Yes. We came in 5th out of 20-something candidates. As I mentioned, we came in 3rd in Montreal with Joe, Joseph Boga has not come in Montreal, right? Only 18 months. I think Nima, we came in 3rd or 4th. Prince Johnson, because he's from there, he came in ahead of me, but I think we did better than Liberty Party that have been around much longer in Nima. Yeah, in 2017. That's true. Yes. And I think in 6 or 7 other countries, we came in 3rd. Yeah. So that's just the foundation. That's just the facts. Right? When people say, oh, people don't know Cummings, only after 18 months we did what we did. It's been, you know, what, 5 years since, right? We do our own polling. There are 3 leading candidates today in Liberia: Cummings, Boakai, Weah. That's the choice, right? I mean, those are the choices. So when people make those statements, 99% of the time, there's no basis in facts. It's a sentiment. Sometimes it's actually the CDC people, sometimes the UP people make those statements because it's politically advantageous for them to say those things and make those statements, right? Do we still have some work to do? Absolutely, right? I remind people, I've been underestimated all my life, right? And that's happening again. What will surprise him? But there are a lot of political motivation for those statements that people make. Sometimes it's from ignorance. People don't actually know. because of their sentiments or whatever. But I know we are making significant strides. We're making progress, and I'm confident that if we keep doing the work, we will be successful in October next year. The other thing I remind people when they say, quote unquote, what has Cummings done? So you ask the question, so what has the other people done? What has President we have done as president? What has the former vice president done? What's specific? People say Cummings don't have government experience. That is true, but what has the government experience produced for Liberia? So you don't want to experience just for experience. You want good experience. You don't want bad experience. You want experience that it has delivered results. Right? And the experience they talk about, we are the oldest republic in Africa, one of the poorest in the world, poorest in the continent. That's the experience we want. And want to keep doing the same things and expect different results. It's not going to happen. So still a good question. We're doing the work. We got work to do. The facts are the facts, and we're making progress. And again, let them keep underestimating us.
My name is Irene Williams, and my husband is Gabriel Williams here. We've lived in this area for almost 30 years. I work in correctional health care. It's nice to see you. Over the past years, I have reserved my political desire of moving ahead, like being behind a candidate, because I've been disappointed because of what has been happening. But yet and still, just following you, knowing that you are from the corporate world, I really believe dignity in labor, and I see that you have been working. Many of the people that took positions in Liberia, especially like a president, over the past times, especially most recently, I see that it's like, I heard it, the parable that people go up there with empty bags and hoping to get it filled. I see that your bag is not totally empty, pretending to finance. So because of that, the practical person that I am, I have been talking with friends and people that I know. But I don't know where this rumor started from. I want for you to please forgive me. Because even last night, I was talking to someone and she said to me, but Sis Irene, what is about this news that Mr. Cummings is gay? I want to be able for me to tell them that I asked Mr. Cummings and he told me, no, he's not. Because I remember hearing some recording that you said that you believe in the people's right to choose. I'm in healthcare. My mind has been renewed. It's open. I accept anybody. And where your rights extend is as far as where my nose is. There where your rights stop. So could you please, just so that these people can get rid of this excuse. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you for having the courage to ask the question, so that we can address it. So the first thing I would say is people should listen to this quote unquote tape that people talk about. It is available, the whole tape, because I said nothing that is being alleged. So first thing, I encourage you to listen to the tape. The second thing, there have been others on social media who have admitted to starting this lie, because it is a lie. And so again, you can, I'm sure people can send it to you, haven't seen it, because this is a made up allegation. I'm not gay. As I mentioned, although they got people who are married and gay, but I'm married to Teresa, 40 years, we got children, grandchildren. My classmate here for me, I think whether would vouch for me. But you know, when people really have nothing else, people make up stuff. It is, and I use the word alleged deliberately because I don't have facts, but it's alleged that between the UP people and the CDC people are the one perpetuating this so-called lie. But it's not true, not at all. But thank you for giving the courage to ask. I'm not insulted by you asking the question because people need to hear that is not true, and it's something that is made up. And I think I even heard that this is how vicious and malicious people are. I heard that, and I won't call his name because I'm trying to verify. I heard there's a quote-unquote man of God, Liberian pastor in Houston, who was telling people that I went to him 30 years ago for him to pray for me because I wanted to get rid of my quote-unquote gayness. I'm gonna find out whether it's true that he's saying this, and on that one there will be consequences. But this is how malicious and vicious people are. But you know what? I am undeterred because I know myself. I know the truth. Family and people who know me well know the truth, and that will not stop me from becoming president of Liberia.
My name is Brenda Griffin Washington. I'm here from California. Hello, how you doing, my Brenda? So I have a question for you because somebody on Facebook saying they want, yes, I want to hear from you exactly. They said, Cummings said he hate poor people, he hate the villagers, and when he become president, there will be no room in his administration for uneducated people, for poor people, and for people in the village. So I need to hear it. That rumor can start. Mr. Cummings said when people say they're educated, they must prove it. So the man taking it to say now to put on Facebook, now the person here, that means that you saying you don't like people. So I want to hear from you exactly, directly, so you must let the people know. So when they carry the rumor, they ain't got to come ask you again because you say it right here. Thank you.
Thank you. So just for clarification, the lady that asked the question, they didn't ask about educated or uneducated. She asked for qualified people. And you can be qualified by the way or having formal education. There's something I used to like to use. So I used to run Coke Nigeria. And I used to use that example in Nigeria because a lot of the women, the people that sold product in the markets, big distributors were women. And I used to always say many of them were not quote unquote formally educated, right? But if you take 2 naira plus 2 naira, they knew it was 4 naira. And they actually knew their margins, what percent return, what margins they make. But if you put them the formal stuff, they didn't get it, but they understood their business, right? And that it can apply to any area. I use sort of business as an example because that's an area I know and understand. So again, this is where people try to use your words, your explanation, twist it for political reasons. How can I not let poor people? Most of them are very poor. Right. I mean, it's sad, right? Most Liberians live on less than $1 a day. Liberia's a poor country. So that's nonsense to people. Somebody make that statement. But because you know what, we have integrated education in the country. You know, and shame on us. And we should make no apologies for encouraging librarians to get education. No apologies. No apologies for saying librarians should go and get. And I mentioned earlier, it can be technical education, vocational, formal, but no apologies for librarians. Not any librarian can be president. I'm sorry. You gotta have the experience. You gotta have educational skills. These are facts that we should shy away from, and people try to twist it into some negative, some nefarious way, and that's what this person is trying to do. No apologies. Librarians should get educated. You should prepare yourself. If you want a job, whether it's in the private sector, whether it's in the government, prepare yourself. Get prepared to do the work. There's no free lunch. Everybody got to earn it. And they can twist it all they want. We won't qualify people in government.
Good day, Mr. Cummings. I'm Catherine Thomas. I live here in Sacramento. In 2014, Liberians were able to witness the Ebola epidemic, and some of us were fortunate to be able to serve our people during that crisis. Over the outbreak, during the course of the outbreak, we were able to work with developmental partners and be able to identify some of the lapses in our healthcare system. And we came up with a master plan. But over the course of the years, we've seen that our healthcare system has continued to deteriorate, and that hurts us, especially some of us who are really putting a lot into the healthcare system. So I want to ask, under your leadership, how do you intend to help promote or uplift the healthcare system? What are some of the key strategies you intend to help in being able to come up with great strategies to help our people to not to benefit from the public health system in particular? Thank you.
Thank you. You know, talking about the Ebola crisis, you know, I'm very proud to say that although in 2014, when the crisis hit the country, I was mostly based out of this country. I actually went to Liberia in the height of the crisis because I wanted to help. I wanted to communicate that that's not a disease to be fearful of if you're careful, if you follow the rules, if you didn't embrace people that were infected, etc., etc. But we also went. We took a private plane that was our company plane, and we took supplies, we took PPE, we did things to help our country and our people in this time of need. Something I'm very proud that we actually did, and we actually visited Guinea because, as you know, Guinea was affected as well. Didn't get to go to Sierra Leone on that particular visit. But on the question about the healthcare system, so as I mentioned, with all of our priorities, we're gonna make priorities many priorities. We can't fix everything in healthcare or education or infrastructure. We gotta make choices. Within healthcare, if you look at the facts, the data, what kills most Liberians, about 80% of the deaths in Liberia are caused by the following diseases, and this is in no particular order, but malaria, typhoid, diarrhea, hypertension, childbirth. There's a six. Diabetes, if I didn't call it, yeah. Those are the things that kill most Liberians, right? 80% of people die from those things. Yes, people die from non-communicable diseases, cancer, heart, liver, etc. 80% of Liberians die from those things: malaria, typhoid, diabetes, hypertension, childbirth, and so on. The way you solve that is primary health care, right? That means lots of clinics around the country existing and new ones where we need to build them with all the drugs necessary with trained nurses and midwives. We need doctors too, but it takes time to train doctors, right? So midwives, these birthing rooms, etc. And if we do that, you begin to address what kills 80% of Liberians. Of course, some of these diseases got more fundamental issues. You know, diarrhea tend to be because running water, right? And so that's why running water is part of the infrastructure I talked about. We had to fix that. Same with typhoid, sometimes bad drinking water and that kind of stuff. So there's some other fundamental things. Waterborne diseases contribute a lot to illnesses across Africa, including Liberia. So there's those other fundamental things we gotta fix. But within healthcare, primary healthcare is where we'll focus initially, because if we do that well, we address 80% of what kills Liberians. And then we'll get to the others. In time, we'll get to, you know, maybe a cancer center or whatever. But we gotta focus on primary healthcare because that will address 80% of what kills our people.
Thank you, Mr. Cummings. Thank you, Mr. Cummings. Our next president for Liberia. She actually took my question away. I'm a nurse, bachelor's in nursing. And the exact question that I was gonna ask is what you just asked. And I am very happy with the answer you gave. So since my question has been answered, I was just gonna go about to tell you in Sacramento what we did during Ebola when that came about. I work for a Catholic hospital, and I wrote a letter to our mission, our head of mission, and she was actually able to partner with Shirley's father. I'm sure most people here in the Sacramento people know her. Pastor Tim was part of that, and I didn't know that Pastor Tim was part of that until we were in the newspaper in the Sacramento Bee. But the hospital was able to, just for me writing the letter, was able to give at least $250,000 of PPEs and medications and everything. And I believe that helped Liberia. It was not specifically for Bassa, because I'm Bassa, or for a specific region. It was distributed, from what I was told in the videos that we watched, throughout Liberia. So I'm very happy that Sacramento was part of that. And because you have already answered my question, I just don't want to go back to my seat. So I am very, very happy with that answer, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me say the one thing we will do differently as well in terms of, you know, all the different efforts from diasporans to help our country in different ways is we would do a better job of coordinating diaspora affairs. We will create an office. You know, the Israelis have a big diaspora, Jewish diaspora in the United States and around the world. And they actually have a minister of diaspora affairs to coordinate their diaspora activities around the world. I don't know if we'll create a ministry necessarily, but we'll certainly have an office of diaspora affairs so that all of these initiatives can be coordinated. Because right now, we have a lot of one-offs, you know, and everybody means well, they're doing the right things, but we need to coordinate it and make it more systemic, more systematic, right? And organize it so that, you know, maybe one container comes from California, from Sacramento. We organize it so that next quarter, a container is coming from somewhere else in the world or in the US. So then there's a continuous flow of this equipment or drugs or whatever, right? There's so much resources in the diaspora that we just need to coordinate. We need to put again, process and system in place, right? And then I hope the diaspora follow the process, follow the system. Don't say, oh, we're not doing it, well, I do my own thing. I'm going to do it on the side, right? Because that's what we do. Our instinct is, oh, I'm not going to work in a system. Because if we do that, we'll get much more leverage from all of the efforts that you and others do to help Liberia. We just need to coordinate it, sequence it different and better. One of the things I'm passionate about, I was mentioning earlier about creating a diaspora fund. So for those of people in finance, you know, you create funds. If you get Silicon Valley, right here, you got venture funds. You start create a fund that diasporas can invest in, get it professionally managed, and then use that fund, for example, to provide housing and mortgages, for example, or use the fund to invest in agriculture. But in something, and if managed well, you will get a return. You know, it's like investing in the stock market, or you can invest in annuities in this country, right? But creating a fund where diasporas can, every month you can contribute whatever, we create the fund, and that fund is used to invest in something in Liberia, and you get a return. We don't have a housing bank. I mean, we're in the 21st century. And you can't borrow money, you can't get a mortgage in Liberia. In 2022, almost 2022, right? So that's just one example of what is possible, what we have to do. But when we do that, I promise you, your money will be well looked after. We'll get it professionally managed, professionally invested, and you will get a return on that investment, but it will also help the country in a significant way. And housing is one example, but we don't have an agricultural bank. So maybe the fund is used to invest in agriculture, whatever it is, right? But the point is we gotta coordinate the diaspora activities, coordinate the energy, coordinate the resources. It will have more impact, and you could get a return for yourself as well.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Cummings. My name is Marie Maddie, and it truly has been a pleasure having you here this weekend. You've been really excellent at participating in all of the occasions, and personally for me and Bismarck, it's been an honor, so thank you. My question is, from my background, my education is architecture. I currently work as Chief of Facilities Planning and Support for the state of California. So we do a lot in our different professions for America and for the states we live in. And sometimes we wish if we had a way that could channel, our efforts back home. So in terms of my profession, what is your roadmap for manufacturing? Manufacturing in the sense that Liberia produce raw materials, like you say, iron ore, but we don't do steels, we don't do machines, we don't build the factories. We can, if even we produce cocoa, we can make coffee, we can produce coffee. So manufacturing. In terms of sustainability, we live in the tropics with so much sun, and we don't use solar energy, sustainable products, wind energy, things that we can build infrastructure to use things that are natural to the environments that we live in. And then thirdly, infrastructure, right? So infrastructure in the sense of buildings, roads, right? Things that will make it so easy for us in the diaspora to aspire, to go home, to work, to live, to retire. So those are the things I want to know. What is your roadmap or your plan for those kinds of things? Thank you.
Thanks, Maria. Thank you, yeah. And I want to thank Maria and Bismarck for hosting us at their home. The food was good. The beer was cold. As was the music and the company. So I don't know if Bismarck is here, but thank you. Thank you. So Maria asked a few questions, but value addition was one of the questions, manufacturing and the way we'll be able to add value to our raw materials is the first thing we gotta do is we gotta fix the basic infrastructure. Because if you don't, for example, just a real example, if you cannot consistently produce electricity at an affordable cost, your value addition will never be competitive in the market. global market. It will cost you more money to produce locally than to import. So before we get, and there are ways, because it will take a while to get electricity to where it needs to get to, so that I will come with some solutions. But to sustain value addition, to be competitive in producing whether it's steel from our iron ore, or gloves, or condoms, whatever from our rubber, you gotta have basic infrastructure in place, meaning running water and electricity primarily. And it's gotta be priced competitively. If you gotta generate your own electricity to manufacture, now the 10 times will not be competitive with the person next door who getting cheap electricity, if you will. So we gotta fix the basic infrastructure. But before we do that, in Liberia to do some of these things, by the way, we gotta create free zones around the country, zones where we can make sure that the electricity we're providing to that area is consistent, is relatively cheap, the water, the internet, and people can locate their manufacturing, their business in those zones. So we can create a few zones around the country while we fix the infrastructure, because that will take time. So you can start doing small scale manufacturing, small scale value addition. And by the way, the Liberians today who are manufacturing stuff, they are doing, you can do what, granola, hair products. Yeah, so despite the constraints I mentioned, on small scales, this is why I'm optimistic about our country and our people. Because people are figuring these things out, despite all the constraints. You can find stuff manufactured made in Liberia there, right? But we gotta make it easier for them. We gotta fix the underlying infrastructure, and then we can, begin to add value to our services. Our raw materials. We also have to understand sort of global value chain. So where do we have comparative advantage? Let me give you an example of rice, right? We consume rice as our staple. And I hope Isaac Toba is listening. We need to look at the economics of rice production around the world. I think rice is produced in India, Vietnam, Taiwan, I think Indonesia. We need to look at their cost compared to what it would take to produce rice at scale in Liberia. And we will be competitive. Because it might be, and I don't know this for a fact, and shame on me, I should know it by now, but we'll figure it out. It might be cheaper to import rice and produce something else, right? Spices, for example, we have to look at the economics of spices. I think it might be cheaper because the arbitrage. So because rice is our staple, we can have a strategic reserve at every point in time. We can have 6 months supply or more of rice in the country, right? But we import and we rotate it. But it might be more economical when we have comparative advantage producing something else, added value and exporting. And net, the arbitrage will be better financially, economically as a country. And so we will do the comparative analysis to determine what it makes sense for us to produce versus not, right? And we gotta be smart about these things. We gotta use the facts. We gotta use the data. We also gotta recognize that Liberia is a small country with 5 million people, right? So we lack scale. So this is why we need to take advantage of monetary union first. So when you add, I think Sierra Leone is about 7 million people, I think, 8 million. Guinea is almost 20 million. So now you begin to get scale, right? And if you add Ivory Coast, Ivory Coast is about 25, 30 million, right? So now you're talking about scale. And then when you add ECOWAS, it's 300 million people, although most of them in Nigeria. No, nothing against Nigeria. My maternal grandfather was Nigerian. So but the point is, when we think about value addition, we should think in the context of comparative advantage in the context of the sub-region. And those are, sort of ready markets for our value addition. And that's how we got to think about manufacturing and adding value and that sort of stuff. What was your other question, Marie?
Sustainability, you talk about sustainability, like infrastructures that we have spent.
Correct. So, yes, so in fact, I was talking, I don't know if he's here. Yes, talk about water. I don't want to take credit for his idea. It's a good idea. I want to acknowledge it. But what he was, this is why, again, we got all the smart people we need in Liberia. We just got to use them, including you, Marie. He made a kind of an obvious point, when you think about it, right? But a lot of countries that are successful today start with sort of raw materials they had in abundance, right? So he suggested coal in the US and in Europe. That's how they started electricity and manufacturing, etc. Oil in the Middle East, right? So his suggestion was, we got a lot of water, right? And a lot of rivers, waterways, right? We can use our multiple one to generate electricity, right? So it's more sustainable, right? You don't have the carbon issues, that kind of stuff. Even how we travel around the country, it takes time to build roads, right? But you can connect the waterways, you can dredge the ports and stuff like that. It's a wonderful, actually, private sector opportunity. So another Liberian who lives in Houston had a proposal about buying barges and passenger boats that could move goods and services along the rivers in Liberia, right? People, etc., right? That's something we need to encourage. The government doesn't have to do everything. Maybe the government can subsidize, but we gotta create a right environment. The government should be dredging the rivers so the barges can get through, right? But it can be an opportunity for people to make money, right? So move. So sustainability is about using what we have in abundance, right, to our advantage, and use it in a way that provides comparative advantage versus, I often say in Liberia, we protect this pepper bush. We over-regulate, but no pepper the pepper bush. but we still make it difficult for people to kind of grow pepper. So we'll revisit all the rules and regulations, we'll simplify, make it easy. But then I will say to the diaspora, don't wait for it to become perfect before you come home. You can't help make it perfect. Can't take some risk. Can't help fix it, right? We got a great environment, right, for you to come and thrive because you have a choice. But diaspora can't help. Let her can't help grow the pepper, right?
Thank you. Just as a reminder, we're hitting almost 1 hour and change right here. I see your face is tired, I'm tired of it. We still have more time with Mr. Cummings, but we will be at some point taking 1 or 2 questions from our online listeners and viewers as well, as to keep it into consideration. So at the very last few minutes, we would revert to online to get some questions from them. And those of you who are listening and watching us online, just note that we're going to randomly pick questions. So please don't take it personal, don't get there, they won't pick you. So let's get to the next person, please.
My name is Albert Masikor. I don't need it. I'm an electrical engineer by profession, and I don't work in electrical engineering anymore. I work with trains. I help manufacture trains for Siemens. My concern is, we've been around for a while now. I say we because I consider myself a part of Team Cummings now. We've been around for a while now, and we're trying to bring maximum productivity to our country. My concern is preparation for leadership. I mean, if you've been in the trenches for a long time, and we've been in trenches for a long time, and we're coming out, we are definitely sure that this time we're gonna make it. My concern is,
This is good.
how are we going about putting a pool of technocrats together because time is fast spent. I can give you an example. I'm 57. I left from Liberia 1987, and I've been Russia, I've been Holland, I've been England, I'm in America today. When will I go home? I can't go home because the people back there, I can't trust them to work with. So now that we are about to ascend, how prepared are we? I mean, in terms of putting a pool of technocrats together to take over, because it happens that people want to be in leadership and they get to the leadership and they don't have people to work with.
That's true.
Right. They don't have enough people to work with. How are we preparing ourselves in that direction so that when we get to Monrovia tomorrow, we will not be recycling, like the brother said, we will not be recycling the same politicians. I'll tell you the truth. I've known politicians since I was a kid in Liberia, and they're still being recycled. They go, LA come, they're there. Georgia come, they're there. You know, we don't. I mean, it's fair enough. These people are Liberians, but we don't want to see the recycling continuing.
Right. So again, I'm glad you asked the question, and it's another chance to address. But let me explain to you what happens in the United States, though, because it happens in Europe as well. But since we're in the U.S., and then I'll answer the question specifically about the talent. But if you think about this country, right? When the Democrats come to power, a lot of the same people come back.
That's true.
Fact. So if you look at the Obama administration, many of the people that staffed the administration came from the Clinton administration. Because they bring the experience, they have been there before. But oftentimes, the people that become secretaries in the next, whether it's Republican or Democratic, were the assistant secretaries before, were the other secretaries before, did they bring some people from outside as well? But it's typically, and then same with the Republicans. A lot of people that staff Trump administration, some came from outside, or some came from the Bush administration.
That's true.
You have a talent pool of people because you need some experience. I talked about the experience I have not produced, so you can't overpopulate with that kind of experience. But in this country, that's what happens. Fact. It's the mix of people you bring. Is the objectives you set. So if you were Clinton or you Obama or you Biden, is what you want to achieve in your administration, and therefore the rules you set, the expectations you create, that is what generates the change. It's a combination of all of these things. And so we will have people in the Cummings administration, some will come from the EGS administration. If we can find one or two people from the CDC, we'll bring them in if they're good. No, seriously. Because oftentimes those people they made some mistakes, they made some learnings that you can benefit from.
Yes, sir.
And then you integrate them with some new people, new thinking, people with different experiences. It is that combination, but for all of them, you set the expectations. You're clear what you want to achieve. You're clear on how you're going to measure them. You're clear on how you're going to reward them. You're clear on consequences, right? And it's that combination. So the idea that it will just be completely new people, that's not practical. That's not going to happen. It doesn't happen anywhere in the world. When Sunak, the first Asian prime minister, he recycled people from the Cameron days, from some people from Boris Johnson, all of them in there. Then he brought some more people.
Yeah.
Just so we are clear, we gotta get out of this idealism. We gotta be practical. Idealism is good, but we gotta mirror it with some practical situation. On your question, we are working. So we have Isaac Vactoba is leading our policy team. I need to connect you with him. We don't have all the team members ready, but what I will show you, I use this example in that, the dog chase car, dog catch a car, they don't know what to do with the car. Look at the car. When we catch a car, we know what to do with the car. So, but we're running out of time though. So you're right. Your questions is correct. We got, 10 months to election and then inauguration is another one. So about 13, 14 months, right, to sort of get the work done so we know what to do on day one, right? And we also will know the team. Because I'm going to leave from wherever we do the swearing in, wherever we do it, I went straight to work.
Yes.
Y'all who want to come to your inauguration ball, first of all, y'all got to pay for it. We're not using one government penny. And maybe I will come from the office and can't deal with your living. Before we go to work the next day at 7:30.
Good afternoon, even Mr. Cummings.
There's no other group picture of family.
Cummings' daughter. So, if I'm Cummings' daughter, I'm proud to be Mr. Cummings' daughter. Yeah. Well, my name is Samrika. I'm an advocate for people with disabilities, and also I'm a mother with disabilities. I brought my daughter here so she can be able to hear and see the vision of Mr. Cummings. I brought her in this country, and America has given her an opportunity to be a mother of a child with disability, a mother with disability, and have a child. I want to be an astronaut, and I want to have the same opportunity as well. So, Mr. Cummings, you talk about people not born. People can be born with their gender, their religion, and also people cannot be born. People can choose the disability. And as we all know, Liberia is one of the poorest countries in the world, and 99.9% of people living with disabilities live in actual poverty. And as a mother with disabilities, I live all my life in Liberia, and I speak on behalf of thousands and thousands of people with disabilities. And a lot of them, mothers who have kids that have special needs, reach out to me every day. And we look at our country not being inclusive. Mr. Cummings talked about our infrastructural system. We have roads, we have buildings, we have hospitals that are not accessible to us. We have, when they talk about empowerment, a lot of us apply for jobs and we've been denied. We are qualified and we are competent people. And sometimes our employer will tell us, how do we employ you when the building has steps? It is not our responsibility to make the building accessible. Amen. It is the government responsibility. So what will your government do when we talk about inclusion and empowerment for people with disabilities?
Thank you, Sarika. And it's a reminder to me that when I use my example of the bowl of rice and
every Liberian has a right, and you don't choose your tribe. I need to add, you don't choose your disability.
Yes, yes,
It's a good reminder, and thank you for always reminding me of that, because it's something we are committed to. You know, in the ANC, in the CPP, we have a disability council on the executive committee of the party. The disability group is represented at the very highest level to show our sincere commitment. We're starting now as an example of what will happen in the future. But let me assure you that we will make sure that all public buildings are accessible for our disabled citizens. And we'll insist that not only are the government buildings, but as part of the building code, for anybody who wants a building that will have public access, that it has to be accessible. But beyond the physical accessibility, we have to make sure we don't forget, we don't ignore the fact that that community is just as competent, just as qualified, and needs the same level of attention as every other community. And again, it's a good reminder to me, even though we committed, we're not perfect, but I will say in this public manner, and I know it's being recorded, so you can play back, that we'll make sure we take care of our disabled Liberians. Yeah. And they'll be an integral part of our country.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Mr. Cummings.
How are you?
Good. My name is Guy Reed. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. And my question here is concerns of the illegal immigration in Liberia. My concern is about the national security issue that is being posed in Grangeda County. A few months ago, I was watching a talk show where two of the representatives were talking about the illegal immigration, to be specific, the Burkinabes, and said there are about 50,000 Burkinabes in the Grangeda forest mining gold and working illegally. And to me, it's very concerning. So I would like to know in your administration what are you going to do when it comes to illegal immigration?
Yeah, so, you know, I've heard some of the same rumors and speculation as well, and I don't have the facts around that. Specifically, the Grangeda issue you mentioned in Burkinabes. But I think the more general question is all about sort of national security, law and order, rule of law. Those things are all fundamental. They're kind of foundational for any functioning country, right? You have to have a judiciary that works, that's independent. You have to have a population that understands the rules and follows the rules and know their consequences for it. You have to have a country where people feel safe and moving around, going anywhere, doing whatever they want to do, they need to do. And so those things are foundational, fundamental, and something we'll focus on in terms of making sure the whole security process is in place. We need to protect our borders. So our neighbors in the sub-region can come and go. We're part of ECOWAS. With an ECOWAS passport, with my Liberian passport, I can go anywhere in ECOWAS region. I don't need a visa, but you gotta go to the proper borders. You gotta go to the proper process. And that's something we'll make sure we enforce. A lot of our resources leave our country today and we get no benefit. And again, you know, all of these things we're talking about fixing will require money to fix it. One of the ways we get money is to make sure we're getting proper value from our resources. That we're monitoring it, that we're managing it, that we know what's coming in, what's coming out. And so if indeed Burkinabes are taking gold out of Grangeda, that's something we gotta stop. We gotta put a process in place that they gotta come in legally, they gotta follow the process, they gotta get registered, they gotta pay the taxes or whatever, right? And then they can go ahead and take the resources. But yes, national security, and again, it's all about getting the right people in the right roles and holding them accountable to doing their jobs. And national security will be an area that will make sure that happens in collaboration with the other countries in the sub-region. Because it's a fact that our borders are artificial, they're porous. You got family on different sides, some people on the different side of the borders. You gotta take that into account. That's why, again, the collaboration with the neighboring countries, Guinea, Sierra Leone, Ivory Coast, is going to be important for national security reasons and purposes.
Good evening, Mr. Cummings. My name is Frederick Ajabon. I'm from Brooklyn, living in Oakland right now. And I have a question for you. Your visions for the Republic of Liberia is a big bag. A big bag to present to the people and to accomplish. Not saying that it cannot be done. But this question that I do have for you is, this infrastructure that you want to provide for Liberia is going to take a lot of manpower and a lot of knowledgeable people. So would it be safe to say that you'll have to employ contractors? Because I did hear you say you needed contractors. So more than likely, them contractors may be foreign. And if so, what percentage of the working people would you mandate those contractors that they have to be Liberian?
So, yes, to develop Liberia in general, not just infrastructure, will require talents of Liberians primarily, but also will require some foreign skills and talent. That is just a fact, right? And we will, there are rules on the books today about Liberian employment with foreign contractors, with the concessionaires in Liberia. So the first thing we need to do is to enforce the existing rules. I don't know what exact percentages are today. Something, again, we will find out. I need to know. But what happens in Liberia today is that we got a lot of the rules we already need. We just don't enforce it. We don't follow through on it. And so before we create new rules, new requirements, we'll look at the existing ones and make sure they make sense. And if they do, we want to enforce the existing rules, the existing requirements. There are rules today about certain types of businesses that only Liberians can participate in. We'll make sure we enforce those rules. So to answer your question, is we will enforce existing rules. If we need to strengthen them, we will. I don't know the exact numbers. And the numbers may vary by sector because it needs to vary based on the available skill pool we have of Liberians, right? Where we have more of the skills, we will require that more Liberians participate. Where we have less of the skills, will not be as stringent because we gotta be practical about what we're trying to achieve, the ultimate objective. But there will be requirements about Liberian participation in every facet of our economic life. We make no apologies to anybody who wants to invest in Liberia, or even current investors, that Liberians have to disproportionately benefit from the growth in our economy. With no apologies for that, because that's the only way it's sustainable. Liberians have to feel ownership; they have to feel a part, right? But we can manage our economy in a way that it can be a win-win for everybody. It doesn't have to be a win-lose. Everybody can win, but Liberians got to disproportionately win because it's our country and our resources. So we got to disproportionately benefit, but we also got to recognize we need foreign capital and in some cases foreign expertise. we also gotta recognize that we live in the same sub-region. So if we got iron ore, Guinea has iron ore, which in fact, if everybody got iron ore in the sub-region, our rules cannot be too much more stricter than the one in Guinea, because then it will go to Guinea. Because people can take their money where they want, for example, right? So this is why, again, regional collaboration, regional understanding is important. We got gold in Liberia, we got gold in Sierra Leone, we got diamonds in Liberia, we got diamonds in Sierra Leone, right? We need to coordinate our rules and regulations. Otherwise, the diamond will leave and go to Sierra Leone, or if the Sierra Leoneans are too strict, it will come our way. So that coordination is important because people will take the money where they can get the best return for the lowest risk. Okay. So those will get everybody to ask a question today. And we need to hear from the internet people.
Hi, Mr. Cummings.
Yes, sir.
My name is Idris Swain. I live in Sacramento here. I've been here for so many years, up to 24 years, I would say. From Liberia, my question has to do with education. I'm taking you back to education. I know you talked a lot about education, how you went from being nothing to where you are today. Okay. Prior to coming to this country, I was into education, teaching, instructor. And then when I came to this country, I got into nursing. Now I'm in nursing, administration, and management. So my question to you is that, let me continue to the previous. Okay. When President Weah took over, I think in his first year, he declared free education, tuition free for public universities and colleges. This still goes on. There are many people who are saying, "Oh, well, the country was not prepared the country was not prepared for that." So my question to you is, what is the Cummings administration going to do? Are you going to enhance on this, stop it, or how are you going to improve it? What are you going to do for free education or tuition free? Because a lot of our children in the grade school up to the universities or the colleges are struggling. Okay, parents don't have money to send their children to school. Yet we're talking about college education free. So what can you tell us about this? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so I think when President Weah made the decision, the statement about free universal education, it was purely a political ploy. Because it's not actually free. I mean, people, they get charged all kinds of fees, right? Even at the high school, elementary level, parents are struggling, as you suggest, right? Our focus has to be on the quality of education. Having free education that is no quality does you no good. In fact, it does us even more harm, because you get people with degrees, quote unquote, that are free, that isn't really free, but is worth nothing, because we have not invested in the quality of education. It is politically difficult to unravel something that is, quote unquote, being given to people for free. That's politically a challenge to actually do that. And so there's several things we'll need to do. In no particular order, we'll need to focus on setting minimum standards for schools in Liberia. And those standards perhaps exist today even. I'm not sure they're being enforced. But to the extent they don't exist, we'll make sure we establish them, and then we'll enforce the standards. Before anybody can open schools, they gotta meet a certain standard. Otherwise, we're fooling ourselves to think we got high school students who are educated or universities who are educated when they really aren't educated. And so we're gonna have to find the money to invest. We're gonna have to work. You know, Liberia in its past used to work with the church, it used to subsidize because the government can't do it all. So they used to subsidize the Methodist church, the Lutheran church, the Catholic church, right? Because those institutions provided education across the country, whether it was LTI or CWA or whatever, right? BW Harris, they were all parochial institutions that were subsidized by the government because they could provide educational at the right standards, and the government didn't have to do it all. We're gonna have to revisit those kinds of efforts. But the most important focus for me would be on the quality of education. And as I mentioned earlier, is the quality of teaching. So we want to make sure our teachers are trained and are well paid at all levels. University, secondary, middle school and primary education. Because unless you got good quality teachers, you're not gonna have good outcome. So it's about focusing on standards, it's focusing on quality. And whether it's free or not, again, hard to unravel something that's quote unquote free. But again, with all of the fees and stuff like that, I think the idea of free is a misnomer. And we sort of kidding ourselves, and that's something we'll have to revisit. But the focus gotta be on the quality. And to the extent we can keep it free or at a minimal cost, that's what we want to do. Because the educated populace is key to sustaining and growing our country and our economy.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
My name is David Wilford. And my question has two parts. I wanted to add something to Narine Mandi's question and follow up her question, what she was suggesting, manufacturing. Talking about manufacturing, company like Firestone has been in Liberia for centuries, and the rubber is produced there, and then that rubber is taken away, and the final products are produced somewhere else, and then some of them go back to Liberia like tires, and Liberia pay more money for it, for products that raw products that came from Liberia. So all these things we bring into your attention. It is not our hope that during your 2 terms that you are. It is our hope that during your 2 terms, you are not going to complete everything. But I'm very confident that after your 2 terms, the next president that will follow you will not have chance to go back. So then, it will be good to produce, as we produce rubber in Liberia, to manufacture the tires and all other final products of rubber there. That will boost employment. And I hope it is recorded somewhere. So at some time during your first term, you will look at the notes and review these comments. The second thing I need to follow up is I work for State of California as an auditor, and then later on I moved into financial accounting. 27 years in total. I retired about two years and some months ago. Some of my friends telling me, you don't look like a retiree. But the thing is, 2 or 3 years ago, an audit was done in Liberia, and the auditors were getting ready to report to make their reports, and it got killed. he slaughtered them. And there was a statement from the government that the perpetrators were going to be pursued and face judgment. It never happened. And you talk about reducing corruption. You'll be able to make that part of your policy. But give me one moment. But yes, okay, thank you. I'm very glad that you made that exception, sir. They were killed. Nobody brought the perpetrators to justice up to today date. And that has to do with reducing corruption. If auditors go out and they get their audit report ready and they cannot present it, then nobody knows who are responsible. And then also the judicial system need to make modification that when people commit crime, they are brought to justice, no bribing of lawyers and judges. They are brought to justice and face the consequences to the fullest. Thank you.
Yeah, so let me just say I agree with everything you said, particularly the two terms. But yeah, no disagreement on the value addition, comment, the manufacturing. As I said, that's something we will look at, we need to do. And this is why we gotta fix the underlying infrastructure so that we'll add value. It could be at an economic price that makes us competitive with other producers of the same products and services. But something we will definitely do and focus on. And look, this, and I don't like to spend too much time on President we are in this government. I like to look ahead and focus on what we'll do different. But this government has just done so much that is wrong. Yeah. You don't even know where to start.
Yes.
All the way from the beginning when they took $25 million, they said they were mopping up money. They never still have that $25 million. They printed a $16 billion Liberian dollars. So the auditors getting missing, people disappearing, the census issue, the president going away for, spending all the list goes on and on. This is why we gotta make President we are one-term president. Yeah. So much wrong. The lack of accountability is staggering, right? And again, Liberians, we gotta do something different. But my commitment on the record, I keep saying there will be consequences for people who don't obey the law, people who steal, kill, rape. There will be consequences.
Yes.
I don't care who you are.
Yes.
There will be consequences. That's the only way we change our country. And nobody will come back. Nobody will send your wife, your children. So come. No. We will not see them. If you break the law exactly, you're living in America. You should just levy no begging here. You break the law, you break the law, right? Nobody will come back because they're from breaking my family village.
Next person.
Thank you, Mr. Cummings, for coming to California. My name is Joseph K. I'm from Tracy, California. Before coming here tonight, I have a friend in Hayward who and myself usually talk on the phone. You answer one of the questions tonight, but I will go further on that question. He said, Joseph, your Coca-Cola man is coming here, but I heard they say he's a gay man. Answer that question. Aaron will never ask you, which is very good. My question right now is, what is your position on promoting LGBT in Liberia? And the reason for asking this question is because it is not part of our Liberian culture. It has never been. Next question, in addition to that, wait, please, I'll make a comment. In addition to that, neighboring Ivory Coast, when the French government was trying to pressure Alassane Ouattara to allow gay, because they have a gay village in Trècheville, Abidjan. The president went to their foreign parliament so that they can be accepted. The commissioner of police went and raided that village. So tonight, when you become president in Liberia, what will be your position regarding LGBT in Liberia? Thank you.
Again, look, it's okay for people to ask any question they want to ask. You know, you shouldn't shout them down. I'm not worried about the question, right? I think I answered the question, and as he said, it's not a lifestyle Liberians necessarily support. Look, we got bigger issues in Liberia, like poverty, like the bad healthcare system, like bad roads, lack of electricity. That's what Liberians are focused on. Liberians are focused on getting 3 meals a day. Most of them, if they can get 1 meal a day, that's a good day for them. That's where we focus. But as I mentioned earlier, I don't know what else you want me to say. I'm not gay. Never have been, never will be. It's not a lifestyle I support or Liberian support. So that's the answer to your question, right? And the focus should be on the more fundamental things that affect Liberian people, that affects how they live, how they take care of their children, the quality of their life. That's what we should be focused on. That is sort of lifestyle or cultural issues. Is those more fundamental things.
Right. This is the second to the last question for tonight. So let's get to it quick. Maybe we'll take 1 or 2 questions from the internet and I will call your line. Please.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Cummings. Thank you. You have articulated yourself so well today, answering all of the questions. So I have 2 quick questions just to piggyback on 2 of your answers you gave. One, you actually spoke of the mindset, the mentality of Liberians, which I share with you. So tomorrow you are Minister Cummings. What are you going to do for the youth of Liberia, especially our university graduates? That most of them believe that government should be the largest employer. As we see all of our university graduates, everyone wants to work for government. How are you going to change that mindset? Secondly, tomorrow you are President Cummings, and you have mentioned issues of policies, good governance. I personally think those are not Liberia problems. Liberia problem is actually implementation. We have GAC, LNCC, PPCC, all the C's, but implementation is the actual problem. How are you, as President Cummings, going to change the precedents for past presidents as it relates to systemic corruption? All past presidents have seen educated, uneducated. They are all leaders to the systemic corruption in Liberia. How are you going to change that status quo? Thank you.
You didn't say your name.
I'm Kofi C. Moulton Sr. from Liberia. Broadville Motor Corner, and I'm currently living in Sacramento. Thank you.
Yeah, the first question was about youth, and then next one about governance or implementation. So on the question of youth and government being the biggest employer, look, first of all, it's understandable why Liberians are fixated on this thing called government and government jobs. You know why? Because the people they see with a nice house, in a nice cars, are out of form or current government officials. So it's human nature. We're not bad people, right? It's human nature that when you see the people who got some prosperity, a government official, you aspire to go to government. And that's something we have to change. We must change. Not something we can change overnight, but we should, because the private sector has to be the primary driver of economic growth and activity in Liberia, including jobs. Right? Government should be an enabler. Government should not be the one that creates the jobs. And so we will focus on, that's why I started my conversation by saying we will focus on private sector growth for Liberian businesses, Liberian businesswomen, businessmen, will attract foreign direct investment, will change the environment. Because when these university students you refer to, when they see opportunities in the private sector, when they see the private sector person driving a nice car, a nice house, living in a nice house, they will aspire to that and not to government. But we gotta change that paradigm. It can be done, it will be done, it will not happen overnight, but that has to be the direction of the country. I think from the history of our country, successive governments have many occasions deliberately and sometimes subconsciously have kept the private sector small. You know why? Because they're afraid of another power center to challenge them politically. I don't have that fear. To be successful, to solve the issues we want to solve, we got to enable the private sector. We gotta have Liberian businesses, Liberian businessmen and women who are doing well, who are making money, right? And we gotta enable that, we gotta support that. When we do that in the rest of people, they will aspire to that. Because today, what they see is the government people doing that. Over time, we'll shrink the government. We can't do what they want because we'll create chaos. We'll create a hardship. But over time, is to shrink the government as you grow the private sector, right? Small, smart government, using technology, e-government, something we will focus on. We'll use technology to help us, in this transition. So private sector is the key. Question on corruption is question of semantics. What do you say, liberal private, not governance, or is implementation? It's semantics, is both. Good governance means you implement. That's part of good governance. That's part of good management. Management is not an abstract, governance is not an abstract term. It's good when you execute, when you implement, when you put processes and systems, when you insist that people follow the processes and systems, when there are consequences for not following the processes and system. That is good governance. That is good implementation. So I don't see the two as being different. But on the corruption piece, many things we got to do to stop this corruption in no particular order, because we got to do all of this. One is, as president of Liberia, I will not steal Liberian money.
Yes.
As a leader, you have to set the example. If you are stealing, or the people around you, you're allowed to steal, everybody will steal. So we got to set the example, and there got to be consequence for people who steal. One. Two, we have to pay civil servants, nurses, we got to pay people a living wage. If you don't pay the teacher enough money, by the middle of the month, the money finished, they will take money to change the grades because they got to support the family. The policeman will pull you aside, right? We got to pay people a living wage. They will not be rich, but enough money to pay the rent, buy food, pay the tuition, and maybe save something small. a little, then when they corrupt, then we'll punish them, right? So we gotta pay people a living wage. The other thing we'll do, I keep talking about this thing about consequences. When people steal, there got to be consequences. They gotta be punished. They can't just resign or they just leave the government. No, we gotta prosecute them. And assets that they've acquired as a result, we gotta seize it. When people see consequences, they will behave differently. Then we gotta simplify rules and regulations. When you make it too complicated, you create the opportunity for people to use it to their advantage. Then we gotta use technology to help us reduce this thing called corruption, right? So e-government, we will implement that rapidly so that again, through technology, we can try to reduce the corruption, have the right checks and balances. And you know, the example I like to use about Signific, and it's just an example, it's illustrative. We put everything we consume today in Liberia. So for every container, we want to charge a flat rate. Easier said than done. We will look at that, but because, and the reason why it's important, if you say, for example, every container that comes into the country is $1,000, right? Just for example, the math is easy. If there was 10 containers in the warehouse in the morning and all the containers gone at the end of the day, the custom official owe you $10,000, owe the government $10,000. Simple. If you only get 9,000, you don't need any investigation. 1,000 is simple, right? Simplicity is one way, and this is not esoteric. A lot of the Eastern European countries, when they came Estonia, and when they came from communism, they simplified the bureaucracy to help them get at this stealing thing, to make it easy. In that example I use, if you got a container, you know $1,000 you give me my container. I'm not negotiating with you, you know, because I got computers, I got vehicles, all of these. No, give my container $1,000. So when the citizens will understand, when you make it simple for them, it makes it harder for the person on the other side behind the desk to extract rent, because everybody understands it's simple. So simplicity is another way. So it's a combination of setting the right example, of consequences punishing people, paying people a living wage, simplifying things, using technology to get at this thing called corruption. And again, the people gotta play a part. When you go home to get your passport renewed, don't pay somebody to go to the front of the line. I'm serious. Or to get your license, whatever, you know, follow the rules. Yes. Right? And don't send people to come back when we catch somebody stealing from the government, because we're not listening to that. We're not even see them.
Hello, Mr. Cummings. I'm David Moore, David Son Moore for the matter of fact. I live in Sacramento for the last 10 plus years. Most of my questions to you, you answer. Well, I'll ask it again because I want to hear it. Because it encouraged me, I was listening. Thank you. I want to say that I like your Napoleon syndrome, because I fall in that category. People like us, to make it simple to say, short people go for good things and big things. And so, that would just break the ice. But what is your end game for regular folks, people like me, to vote for you to be president of Liberia? Just regular folks, what would be the end game? And my second question is not a question, but it's an offer to you. I know most people have give you advices here and there, and I don't intend to. I just want to offer my time. I see most of my friends here that were engineers that came up here and said things. They were asking some of my questions. Remember that if you need help, I'm an electrical engineer by profession, 25 years for Pacific Gas and Electric as a power engineer. If you do ever need help, we will work pro bono for you to make it successful.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the offer. Thank you very much. And again, I think Isaac is on the call. Isaac is heading our policy group and stuff, so if we can get your details, and I'm sure he will contact you. But we appreciate the offer of help, because we can use all the help and expertise we need to solve these very challenging problems in Liberia. Yeah, look, I think, this whole almost 2 hours conversation has been an attempt to make my case to the Liberian people, right? At the end of the day, I present my track record. I often say the best predictor of future behavior, future performance is past behavior, past performance, right? That's why you apply for a job, you get your resume, people are looking at what you did in the past. If you were a good teacher in the past, chances you'll be a good teacher in the future, a good doctor, a good lawyer, a good engineer. And I say, look at my history, my track record. I came to this country, like many of you, I was in my father's company, my mother, my brother, my sister were able to do very, very well with integrity. We didn't steal anybody's money. I remind Liberians that I grew up in our country. I grew up playing full Fiamma, when the government's elementary school demonstration, CBA, Cuttington, worked at LBDI. So I understand the country, I understand the issues and the challenges. We have solutions to many of the problems faced by our country. And I remind Liberians, the choices are what the choices are. I'm not perfect either, right? If people are waiting for Jesus Christ or Muhammad, Sario, they're not one of our choices. And the choices are among flawed, I keep saying flawed men. Liberians are the decide who's less flawed or who's more appropriate to the time, to where we are now, right? And then make a choice. I keep saying choose. Doesn't have to be Alexander Cummings. I hope it is. I want you to be, but that's how to be. But don't stand on the sideline. If you think George Weah is doing a good job, you should make a choice and support him. If you think the former vice president is the better candidate, you should support him. If you think Alexander Cummings is the best candidate, please come and support us. And let's work together. But make a choice. Not making a choice is a choice to consign Liberia to where it is. And then I believe actually you lose the right to criticize. When you decide to just stay on the sidelines and put my hand up, and not do anything. Make a choice, whatever it is. But the choices are clear. And now, my role is to try to convince you and Liberians to come my way. We'll not convince everybody, and that's okay. But we'll work hard to convince as many people as possible because we want to serve our country. For me, the presidency is not the goal. It's a means to an end. The goal is to work with Liberians to change Liberia. The job only allows you the opportunity to do that. Right? It's not the destination for me. It's an enabler that given the opportunity we can work with Liberians to change our country. And that's the goal, is to change our country for the benefit of every Liberian. That's the objective, and the presidency just allows us to do that. So over to Steve Bread and Butter Bole.
Well, we got 2 questions from the internet.
I don't know which other candidates got this capacity to still sort of this or Steven and take this many questions.
Well, we got 2 questions from the internet. A few years back, we have been termed as internet citizens. So at least thank God now we have the citizenship, right? So we graduated from that, but so we got to consider our people on the internet as well. But let's get to the 2 questions. I'll make it very short because they were long, but I'll just summarize and get to it. The first one was, what would Mr. Cummings do to decentralize the government? The second one was also in relation to the gold reserve. What will Mr. Cummings do in regards to the gold reserve in Liberia? Is he going to visit that? Does he have a plan for that? What is his plan for the Liberian people?
So I'm glad the question came on decentralization, and then we'll talk about the gold reserve. But again, I want to go on record, and this is being recorded. that we are going to decentralize the Liberian government. It's one of those things, go back to the question, what would do different when I say you keep doing the same thing, expect different results. The current construct of how the government is organized has been fundamentally the same way for the last 175 years, right? And when I change the three branches of government, that's not what I'm talking about, right? We'll have the judiciary, legislative, and executive branches, that's fundamental. But how we deliver services, how we administer the country, we will decentralize. We gotta push responsibility out. We gotta make superintendents more powerful. We gotta think about at what level we want to push elections, right? We gotta do it in an organized way. We gotta do it in a deliberate way with a destination in mind. We're not gonna just flip a switch and say we decentralize tomorrow, but it will be our goal, our destination to do that in an organized way. Because that's when local citizens can hold the local mayors and then accountable, right? So we've got to push it out. We will decentralize the Liberian government. We have to. We'll take some baby steps. The last administration started with decentralizing some services. We'll give superintendents more responsibility initially. We'll make it public the money we're giving them to spend in accounting for what reason, so the citizen can know and can hold them accountable. But decentralization is something we will do. I even got somebody in mind to lead that effort. And so there was a question about forming the teams. For some of the team members, we know who they are, and I got somebody in mind to actually lead that effort, who I think will do a wonderful job, who has passion for this area, who did some work in other countries, Liberia, by the way, around decentralization. So yes, it is something that I'm committed to doing, something I think we have to do, something that I think will make a difference if we do it right. And so decentralization. On the gold issue, it's something we will look at in terms of the economic benefit to having a bullion reserve, a gold reserve. What does it do to the Liberian dollar, our currency, right? A lot of the Western currencies today don't necessarily have gold backing them per se. But anyway, it's something we need to revisit. It's what a lot of what will drive economic activity in Liberia will be some of the things I mentioned earlier, fixing our infrastructure, value addition to our natural resources so that we're exporting things of value and importing things of less value, that balance of trade difference. But we'll look at the whole, because we got a lot of gold, right? Are we getting the best value for the gold we have? Is a fair question, right? Are we getting the right returns from that gold? Is there a different way to think about gold? And that applies to all of our natural resources, right? We got gold, we got diamond, we got iron ore, we got apparently we got bauxite. Some people still believe we got oil, TBD, but we gotta really figure out how we get the best use for our resources to the benefit of the Liberian people. And we gotta do it in the context of the competitive landscape, who we compete with for those same resources, because we don't live in isolation. So we gotta keep that in mind as well. But I believe we can get more value from natural resources so that Liberians can benefit from it.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Mr. Cummings. Let me take a deep breath. I know some people asking, I can say some questions. Well, because of the sake of time, and we have to acknowledge that we've been here for about 3 hours now, on the mark. Sometimes when I'm coming, if you used to play for Barrow or ID, you got to get it kind of energy to get me standing. Instead of looking at me like, one more question. Anyway, we'll ask Mr. Cummings to give us his closing comments here.
I have a question.
It's okay.
Yeah, so
one more.
So we'll take one more.
I mean, you're gonna get liberals staying here for 3 hours without asking questions. That's not what we do. No, that's okay. I don't need to do it. Yeah, I have a question here from, before I ask that, I noticed something here on Cummings. There was a gentleman that spoke here earlier, he's blue man, and he let him speak for almost 2 hours.
I didn't know you were blue man.
Somebody was just asking to know, what are you going to do to those present government officials who are, according to the word, and that's the person word, not my word, looting the country?
So we will not just assume that people are looting the country because it is alleged or because somebody accuses them. We will go for the evidence, for the facts. We cannot have a country where people or the president can just say, go after Samson, or I think he stole. We will have to investigate, and I keep seeing wherever the facts lead is where the facts lead. And whoever the facts lead to is whoever the facts lead to. I don't care who you are. So I want Liberians to know, as I mentioned earlier, we'll authorize an audit of everything we inherited. We'll make sure those agencies are properly staffed with the right people and have the right resources, and we'll get out of the way and let them go do the job. And if any current government official or past government official, if the evidence lead to them, the evidence lead to them. And they will bear the full brunt of the law for whatever violations they commit. So let me thank you all. By the way, I played football. I wasn't very good. You see, everybody, you need to know your area, right? George Weah, by the way, was a great footballer. That one we have to take away from the man. He is still the only African to have won the Ballon d'Or. Someone should make us proud, right? How you can't take away from the president. But you know, he was never captain of any of those teams, even though although he was always the best player, he never got a captain band because they gave the captain band to the best leader. In my sport, they give me the captain band. We were and are good leader of teams, of people, management of resources. That's what's required. This thing is not about me, it's about us. It's about us, it's about we. No one person can change our country. It will require all of us. It starts with the leader, setting the example, making the choices, the priorities, but then it takes a team and a team of all of Liberians. In every way, we gotta play a part in the transformation of our country. And so I want to thank you. 3 hours is a long time. Woo. This is probably my longest town hall. I've done 2 hours a day in the class. So it's been good. I want to thank again Wale, the leadership of the West Region. I want to thank Yasa, who headed the committee, the California team. I want to thank all of our hosts, the Yes, Marie, Bismarck, and everybody who hosted us this weekend. Thank you. It's been a good weekend. I think we did well in terms of the fundraise. So I want to congratulate and thank you for that as well. And as I mentioned earlier, now we in the sprint. Elections are 10 months away, and we got to make the case to our people. And you can play a part in that. You can help in multiple ways, but don't stand on the sidelines. Make a choice and do your part to help transform our country, whoever you choose to support. But we have to take Liberia in a different direction. Thank you. God bless you. God bless Liberia.
Yes, I know we've been here for 3 hours. Really quick, before we close everything up, please, we'd like to recognize Mr. Bruce Jerome, who's the president of the National Association of Minority Contractors. I want to say thank you for all you do. Can you please put your hands together? Thank you. Well, let me say something before I tell you the back one. You know,
oh yes.
He had to say because when I say something again, tomorrow morning will say I promise so. Because some people are straight talk. You know, I can hear people say, oh, nobody know Cummings. But Mr. Cummings get like great talk more than you. Because I heard him to it. Anyways, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Steve, I forgot.
Yes.
I want to acknowledge, for SPTV, Liberia Public Radio, but I also want to acknowledge Pastor Wula, team, for the use of the facility for the beautiful service today, sincerely, and for the prayers. So thank you for letting us spend all this time here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cummings. We will turn it over to OJ.
Wow, wasn't that informative, right? Yes, you guys learned a lot? I know I did. I know my series is a little bit Americanized, but I'm full Liberian, I promise. Just want to send you guys a reminder to please purchase t-shirts. This will support Mr. Cummings' campaign, so please purchase tickets, not tickets, but t-shirts. I think we have Zelle, Cash App, whatever, Venmo, whatever. So please support. And then I would like to welcome Pastor Tim to close us out. Let's give it up for Pastor Tim.
You know, right? Coming on board. Coming on board.
And then stay after we do have refreshments. I know you guys are hungry and thirsty, so we have food and drink surplus. So enjoy.
Okay, excuse me, please, everybody. Just real quick. I was just given an assignment by this Yasa. And so, if you were not there last night, can you just wave your hands real quick? If you were not there last night, at the event last night, those that were not at the event, can you please stand up real quick? Those that did not attend the event last night, will you please stand up? Okay. Thanks for coming today. Thanks for coming today. Thank you. Yes, sir. This is what yes, sir told me. They all the money you see that's being raised is not necessarily for Mr. Cummings or a campaign. A lot of good work have been done in Liberia, and so they're raising all this money for it. And she knows I love to hear about money. People say, oh, the Bible said the love of money is the root of all evil. But people have to understand the word of God. When they said love, when you study the Bible, the New Testament was written in Greek. And something about Greek compared to English. English is very ambiguous, but Greek is not. So if you say love, it depends on the love you're talking about. The way I love my wife is different from the way I love says yes, sir. So that particular love is not the love where you take God above love. So I love money, amen. Now, if you love money the wrong way, then you got a problem. Okay, I love money. We all love money. And so, yes, I said we should raise $5,000. It's easy. We got people here to raise it. Okay, I'll call the first person, Catherine. I just need 10 persons with 500. Catherine, we give 500. Yeah. The brother right there, 500. Amen. Can you please take notes? I love doing this. Since one more gave 500. Please.
May I get on the record to say I'll do $100 for the night? We did give donations last night.
Okay.
So I want to be on the record for that.
For 100.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you so much.
100, this is woman. Catherine right there, 500. Did you say 1,000? Make it 1,000 for Catherine. Okay. We got Catherine and the brother right here. He got a cash. It's set right there. So how much do we have? It's 1,000. Okay. How much do we have? We have 1,100. Okay.
Bruce already paid 500. I said woman for 100.
Okay.
Eleven
No. Catherine, you said 500, right? I love you too. Okay. In the back, who's back there? Believe me, this is Sacramento. We'll get that money easy. Okay, I see the man right back there. That guy, he got a lot of money. Mr. Adrian Sway. Did you say 500? Did you say 500? Yeah. So where are we?
We at 1,600.
Okay. You know what? Let's make it fast. My wife is not here, but I would say 1,000. Okay, add it for 1,000. Okay. So what's next? Where are we? Where? 2,600. So how much do we need?
24.
We need 2,400. Who's next? Myself, I don't know, man. For how much? $100. Michael.
I know, right? We don't got a brother here.
Okay, add that. Look, US, not LD.
You think you stay in Labro?
Okay. Thank you, Michael. Mr. Eric Brown, did you say something? 100. Okay, Eric Brown, 100.
2,200. I just cashed out mine yesterday. Somebody's taking notes of the cash.
Okay. Okay. So let's do this real quick. Who's next? Where are we? How much we got? Yeah.
Who's next?
Who's next? I was going to call the Yates, but the Yates, I guess they already give a lot of money. Yeah.
We broke that bank.
Yeah. So that's why I didn't call them. But I see my brother back there, my own Deacon Moulton. So put him down for 500.
So 1,700.
Okay. Where are we? Where are we? Okay. Let me tell you this. This is the richest state in the world. And this is the capital city. We got money here. Where are we? How much we got?
17 to go.
Okay,
1,700 to go.
Oh, so we need 1,700.
Yes, remaining, that's a ballot.
Okay, we need 1,700. Okay, California folks, come on. Okay. Come on, Brother Crusoe, how much? You gave last night. Okay. No, he gave last night, so we spare him. Amen. Okay, I have 200. So we have 1,500 left. Oh, come on. I love my California folks. I love my Sacramento folks. Okay, who's next? All right. Jiggy, did you say how much? You gave last night. Okay. You know, I need to recognize who What was there last night? But Taylor, did you see something?
I gave last night. Wait,
Give it
hold on
last
a
night.
second. Uncle Sia said 200.
200. Okay, did you see Japhet? Oh, she was in there? Oh, Mr. and Mrs. William, how much? Did you say 5?
Thank you very much. We'll give 2.
2. What is that? Thanks for telling me. Mr. K. Mr. K, how much? 400. Please put it, Mr. K down for 400. Okay, so look at it this way. We only need 700 left. And so, David was not there last night. He said he would give 100. I'm putting him down for 100. Put it down, 100. He's not going to argue. I'm just asking.
Yes.
Okay. No, just listen. David will give 100. I will come back to the remote. Okay. So please, tell me how much left? 600. Okay, come on, don't leave. 600 left. Okay. Yeah. Huh? 500. Okay, what can you give them for 500? So give them 500. Okay. So how much we have left? 100 left. And guess what? 100 left? Maryland, we got benediction here. 100. And then Sister Maryland 100. So guess what? We raised 5,100. Come on, let's give it up. I love my city. Okay, yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we got it. Okay, folks. Huh? She gave 100. It took us 100 above. Okay, folks. Thank you for your time. Can we stand up, please? Okay. Okay, folks. Can we just pay attention real quick, please? Please listen, folks. Please listen. Please listen. Everybody, please listen.
Good evening. We still have food, so please don't leave real quick. We got pomegranate rice, check right here. Check it's ready. But I want to thank you all for the support. We thank you for the love. When we picked Sacramento, it was not a mistake. You all made us proud.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Thank you. This event had 2 purposes, and we succeeded in both. The first one was to raise money for our projects in Liberia. The hand pumps, the toilets, the microlooms, all those things that Mr. Cummings keep throwing out of his pocket. The second purpose was to expose our Western region to Mr. Cummings, and we did that successfully. I have people now telling me that I'm part of the team. People that said that they want to be bothered with politics, they join our team. So we're successful this weekend because of you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cummings? Okay, folks, just a couple of quick announcements, please. Once we're done praying, we have to bring the tables right in the back to put the food. So can we please help out and clear that area? We're going to bring the rest of the tables so we can set it up for food. So thank you for coming. Mr. Cummings, thank you for coming to Sacramento. And we're glad that, like she said, you've been exposed to a whole new world. Because people come and think Liberians are only on the East Coast. But we're here. Thank you. Okay, folks, let's say a prayer real quick. May the Lord watch between me and thee, while we are absent one from another. Amen. God bless you. Thank you.
Steve.
Yeah.